Good morning on that Thursday morning, the 11th of July, and it's 10 a.m. plus 3 minutes. So I am a little late. No excuse, just time management. So I will probably get to a time management session one day so that I can teach myself. Because when I coach someone, I coach myself too. We learn together. It's really a partnership. Anyway, welcome, welcome. We are today uh, streaming through different channels, but I will remind you that it's on LinkedIn, it's on YouTube. And for YouTube, I'm asking you please to subscribe. In fact, you are hearing me because some people and a good number of them subscribed recently. So thank you for those who do. And I think the advantage for everybody, it's win-win, right? Is that we are increasing content quality, and we're going to go back also to our schedule with guests. And no matter the summer, the fall, or the winter, we'll have always someone every other week here joining, and eventually even you, because we'll build some forums coming up where people can participate. You can participate, ask you questions, and interact and exchange with our guests. Sometimes they have, you know, the position to know, be expert in their fields. And sometimes for you and for streaming and for what's called a broadcasting opportunity, it's sometimes a famous person, a celebrity. And I have a few surprises for that coming up in a few months. Anyway, and the reason people, by the way, I just want to tell you why. It's not for prestige. It's because if someone is famous, if someone is a celebrity, right? It's because that person is an icon in a certain area, has people to consider that person a model. And model sometimes is a good thing to use. Don't take me by the word of using. It's a benchmark, because a human being is a human being. You don't use a human being, but you certainly use the concept of modeling and have a model, role model, as a benchmark for you to remember when you do something or you look for excellence or performing, highly performing. It's not a bad idea. So this is why I have included some celebrities, quote unquote, to join us here, who have the interest also to talk to you, because I talk to them and explain to them why it would be worth it for them to come, not for their prestige or celebrity, but because you and him or her have something in common and a purpose to share. And I always talk to them about this role model thing. So they are very interested in being a role model, because that's how they lead, or that's how they live their lives, not always to be famous. I think to be famous, by the way, and be a celebrity is not an easy thing. I don't envy any of those people because it's really a hard thing to be in the street, walk, have to sign paper, give an autograph, or being followed by paparazzis, and we saw so many tragedies with that. It's a tragic what kind of life. I have no interest in that, but if some people do this for a purpose, and many of them do, then of course, then there's only something, people to praise, and that's all it is. They are somehow heroes in some fashion. Anyway, back to what I was saying. We are also on Facebook. We are on Instagram, and we are on Twitter X, and that's for the social media side of things. For the podcast side of things, well, there's two types of podcasts. I call a podcast what is recorded to a certain extent, right? So the recordings are everywhere I just said. All of these channels will keep the video in my profile or on our websites for the brand, if it's my name, or if it's Coaching Path, or if it's Majesty, which is the company I created a long time ago, which is now the parent company, the parent entity to anything that I do, and all the other activities. So this is why Majesty is also there, majesty.com, Majesty.com. It was founded and created for other things than coaching or consulting, but all the things are always, they are movable items. They have to adapt to the situations, and COVID was one of them, the pandemic, to survive and not to let the company go. There was a lot of things to do and diversify and be creative about, and just survive. So now that I said all of that, and I speak like someone who has many ideas in 1 second, it's called a bit of ADD, right? And it is definitely an attention deficit disorder to be all over the place. I hope you follow me, and I hope you got my point. But the topic of today is a topic that also comes very often in our coaching, and that's the topic of feedback. Feedback in many sense, there's so many different aspects of feedback. The one I want to address today is in fact of three folds. Number one, feedback is the generosity someone has to give someone the qualifying the quality experience that the person lives through something, and tells this other one, you know what, this moment that we just spent, or what you did here, is what it created in the space, in the world. This is how you did it, and I observed you, I watched you, so let me tell you what was the experience about. And I call it an experience. Could be in anything, but it's feedback. Feedback on someone's performance, feedback on someone who just sucked, feedback of giving the person's feedback, so that person learns how the perception was out there when this person was making a presentation. Let me give that person a feedback of how I experienced this. And this way, this person really can see what happened on the other side. So perception is not something you can always imagine. Perception is an experience, and sometimes feedback gives you very reliable information, very tangible and crucial information, data for you to really take into consideration, so that you are now improving yourself. Now it's you as a person, but feedback is customers' feedback, it's surveys, it's polls and different things that you do all the time, because we are interested in knowing in a massive way sometimes what is the feedback from the customers. Do they like the product? Do they like the service? Do they like? And then you go, and today it's fantastic. That's one aspect, I think, of the social media and the virtual world and the cyberspace that I appreciate, is that before I buy something, or I go on a vacation somewhere, or I book a hotel, or any experience, even a doctor, and you go and you find reviews out there. And even Amazon, right? You would buy something on Amazon. I would really advise, for those who do not take the time, to look at the reviews, because that's how you see if the product is a good product. Those reviews are true reviews. And it's also for you, the consumer, to give a review when you experience something for the next customer. And so now you are providing the data, the information of your experience, to someone else. Thanks to you, this person can rely on booking this room or this apartment on Airbnb or VRBO, and they have a review to say, well, last week, just fresh, a fresh review over there tells you that this person had a good experience, but there was one or two problems, and then you can really eventually ask before you book that this problem has been taken care of, so that you don't go through the same hurdle. It's fantastic. Feedback today is I don't know how to say it, but it's crucial. Crucial. There's too many scams, too many people who are dishonest, so many illusions out there, lies, and we live really in a world of lies. Seriously. So why someone would give a review, a bad or good one, to someone from a lie standpoint? Why would you lie about your experience about something? So I think you will find a lot of truth in the review, like you will find a lot of truth in the feedback at work or from a leader, and you, the leader, giving that feedback. And this is communication. This is giving people a way and an opportunity to grow. And the world can grow this way, it can move forward this way. So feedback, it's not one topic for today and for the few minutes we have together. It's a topic for life. How do you leave feedback is really the question. It's really the question to ask yourself. Why feedback? So first aspect of it, as I said, from the leadership standpoint, is to be very aware that people need this feedback from you. To stay silent or not giving back even a praise, a good feedback, a congratulation, an encouragement, is missing a huge opportunity for this person to grow or this person to be encouraged. I grew up in a culture, and I think it's still the same today, the French culture, and many other cultures. I think India is the same. I think that Germany is the same. In Europe, most of the time, that congratulating, getting an encouragement through positive feedback is not something very current in that culture. Bringing back a good grade at home, or having a good grade from a teacher, getting a feedback from the teacher that I did well on an essay or on a math test, would not really happen very often. Very rarely this would happen. And I so did not grow up with this value of feedback. And it has been for me a challenge to give positive feedback or even negative feedback, just to give that feedback. Because culturally, I grew up with no feedback, very little. So it's a cultural thing. I think it's much more important in the US because that's the exact opposite. The American culture is the opposite. You always, abundantly, spray congratulations, encouragements, and positive feedbacks to children so that they really feel good about their selves. They have good self esteem. Self esteem is an important, crucial part of the American culture, not at all European culture. So I think I find much more and many more people challenged by self esteem and self confidence in Europe that I find in the US. Doesn't mean we don't find it here, but people grow here as kids in a much more nurturing environment, especially about self esteem. We want the kid to feel good. We want the kid to get appreciated for a good thing that this kid just did. This is the way to learn. Now, sometimes we have the sandwich formula, right? Before I say something negative to you, I'm going to first say something positive. I know you're a great guy. You know what? You've proven this to me all the time. But this time, you could have done better. And da da da. And then I close said, but I trust you. I trust that the next time it will be even better than ever. That's the sandwich, right? That's an American cultural thing. And I praise America for that. It's a fantastic thing. We learned it from the American culture above any other culture. So I think you follow me. Feedback is an art, but feedback is a culture, and feedback is something that you can create in your, and that's the third aspect I wanted to bring, in your framework, in your best practices. Feedback is part of it. Now, I'm talking about leadership more than I'm talking about customer experience, patient experience, and all the surveys and all of that. I'm talking about the leadership feedback. Now, there is different dimensions of feedback, one-to-one, and also vertically, if it's a question of an hierarchy and someone giving feedback to a lower level. It's about those evaluations once or twice a year, right? Where we're going to do a review, and HR will be kind of monitoring this, and there will be some good things about it. And sometimes I'm pretty upset about things that are practiced out there, like those calibration things and things that are not very objective. As soon as politics, as soon as agendas come into play that are not, promoting truth and authenticity, I'm getting bothered. I'm getting really bothered very, very much. I think that if we are starting to lie in the area of evaluation of reviews, if I frankly don't have the means to increase your salary, but I'm so happy about you, why not telling you this? Straight through. I do not have the means. We do not have the means in this company, this quarter, to give you a raise, but you deserve that raise. You deserve even twice that raise eventually. I mean, if we have to say it. But that person deserves to hear the truth and not try to manipulate things that, we have quotas and this and that, and we're just going to create all kind of arguments that are just, again, stories that do not exist. So I am sorry. It's a trend. It's not a trend. It becomes almost a sealed value that we cannot say the truth anymore. So I am one of the most optimistic person in the world about this. That it can last forever, and that we'll go back to some level of truth very soon, because we have to. We can't live in the worlds of lies. We cannot live with fake news and all of those things. We can't. This is not part of our human DNA as human beings, not the DNA of a human being, the DNA of beings in general. You know what? It says in the Bible that what makes a difference between mankind and animals, just to make a comparison of the two, is that mankind have been given the beautiful skill of speaking. Just that, right? The brain and the skill of being able to speak. Just that is something animals can't do, in spite of what we make them believe also in legends and in cartoons. But other than that, and the parakeets, right? But they're not doing this from their brain. So human beings have this faculty of speaking. Now, if you speak the truth, you're a human being that even really plays the human being's purpose of exchanging and communicating with another human being. When you start lying and fake it everything, then you think things are going to go through. You think that it's going to get you where you want to be. And maybe for decades it can happen, but at one point it's going to fall. You know why? Because you cannot keep consistency when you lie. At one point things are going to slip down. It's not going to last. So we don't need a court for that. We don't need a judge for that. And the judges of today are not, and especially in the US, a good example that they are representing the truth. So the justice system, everything today is an exaggeration of lies and myths and myth. And because of that, we live in a kind of a scenery or a theater, and nothing really, is reliable. This is why, when I go back now to the feedback and to the reviews, I think that's one of the little things that I can find as a consumer or as an employee or as a leader that is an opportunity for me to, in fact, connect to truth, because I think that truth is a win-win situation. Until I will understand, for those who don't yet, that anyway, what's not true, what will remain an agenda or politics, will always go against the nature. And because it goes against nature, it will not succeed. All right, that's my little philosophical point I want to make, but it's in fact as its place today when we talk about feedback. Because if your feedback has no authenticity to it, and if your feedback has an agenda to it, this is why I was bringing this HR calibration subject. And I'm not afraid to tell you, all of you guys who are watching, who are in HR, are even stakeholders in HR, and you hear me saying that, it's because I know that the root of what I'm talking about here, the root of it is not built on a solid foundation. It's built on, I don't know, a kind of makeup, a compensation for something that we can't find. When you are weak on something, when you are not sure, when you lack, in fact, confidence, self-confidence, you become weak, you become vulnerable, and then lying or using manipulations or other methods that are not going to hide or mask or cover up something. That's a mask. That's a layer. It's something, a mask, right? Something that I can see what's behind it. That's what's going on when it's called politics, because politics is to mask, to manipulate, to maneuver, to move things, to move and have an agenda. And for the agenda, you are not going to compromise anything. You're going to do whatever is necessary to get your goal achieved and reached. You think that way. And that's not going to happen that way. The truth is, it's never happening that way. But we think it does. So I am here as a coach. I'm never giving my opinion, only here. But when I'm coaching someone and I know that person is very political or is maneuvered and manipulated, I will ask maybe a few questions. I say, are you sure about this? Or what do you think? Tell me, share with me the experience that you live inside. Because we are here on a confidential relationship. In the space of coaching, it's about you, about your development, about maximizing you, your potential, being yourself and being successful. being fine when you come home at the end of the day, you feel good, you achieved something, you are close to your purpose, you have kept your values straight and solid. So someone like that I can coach and sometimes question, trigger things that are not necessarily true. The person is going to realize it, and according to that we'll strategize. But it's a shame we're losing a lot of time and energy and emotions through things that are not true or we know they're not, and because of that we have to struggle and have to be someone else and do things that are not ourselves, not authentic. So it's an approach that I would say it this way, with empathy for those who are the people behind it. I will have empathy for them too. They couldn't find better. That's what I think it is. So when you have a political system or politics in a corporation or an organization, it's because nothing can be perfect, and especially organizations today. And there is a book called Reinventing Organizations that I can recommend everybody. Here is the book, Reinventing Organizations by Frederic Laloux. You will see there that, in fact, it will tell you in a way that there is no organizations that stand really, that there is nothing, whichever organization we talk about here, matrix organization, pyramidal organizations, whichever organization you belong to, we are far from being perfect, and we are far from being the right kind of structure to achieve our goals and the purpose of the organization and the mission of the organization. And the bigger and the larger this organization becomes, the more multinational and global this organization becomes, and the less good sense purpose is possible, can be maintained because of the size, because of the lack of scalability. We scale a company for economic reason. We know how to do it economically. We know how to do it structurally, but we don't know how to do it in terms of the organization itself. It could change in some ways, and it's complicated. It could change or be recreated in another way, where there is more participations for the employees. There's much more of a collegial. I love the model in healthcare that nurses came up with called shared governance. And we'll talk about it maybe another time. But shared governance is definitely one example that, in fact, Laloux is using in a few examples here at a smaller scale level. But there is different tests that are made, different pilots that have been created that he's writing about here in his book, Reinventing Organizations. And you'll see, why do I bring this when I talk about feedback? I bring this because feedback is part of and because I was talking about calibration and HR. That's why. Because this is an example, this calibration thing that I criticize from A to Z, which I find to be totally not done the proper way anywhere that I've been seeing it. And it's easier for me to say, it's not right. I didn't come with another solution. Well, my other solution and my prescription here, my advice for whoever practices this kind of calibration is to, first of all, not do it anymore. Just stop doing this calibration. Leave it to the supervisors, to the managers, to the leaders to do their own reviews and evaluations. And if there is any reason for you, the company, to give a good argument for an employee that it cannot be raised or promoted, there's always a reason. Why don't you just share the true reason with that employee? And I'm telling you, because it's true, it will go through, it will be accepted, and everybody isn't going to partner to make it better for the next time. That, in fact, next time we'll have a review. Everybody will work towards profitability, towards different goals that we can set, goals that are very, very tangible, measurable, and that the company can really grow. Growth mindset, that's what an evaluation should be about. And calibration is a counterproductive and I'm reaching already the end of this time. It's a counterproductive tool. And it never worked, and it will never work because it's not based on truth. It's not based on good intentions. It's a compensation. It's a buffer or something. It's a mask. It's a makeup of something, and we organize all this around so that we can postpone for later a promotion or a good review, or the review to the level that is really deserved, and we change things around, and we set different things up so that it will never reach this or that level, when in fact the person went even beyond the level. So feedback is about truth, and feedback is about generosity of communication. I want to close with that. Never refrain from giving feedback to someone, good or bad. When it's bad, of course, put it a human, a human manner with it, a good formulation that is empathetic, that helps the person to develop, that helps the person to learn. That's a learning opportunity. When there is something negative about anything, by the way, I call it an opportunity. And when you call it an opportunity, you find the formulation to say it. So the way you give negative feedback, it's in fact giving a positive, constructive feedback. We'll go back to that topic. It's not a small one. But today, I hopefully was a little bit all over the place, and I apologize, but I wanted to give you a lot of different insights. And also, when I relate now, I realize, so I didn't have my notes today, when I realized that improvising with you here on basis of things that I experience every day, so it's not really a real improvisation, but what I try to share with you from my experience and from the experience of my clients in coaching and leadership coaching is that, yes, if you remember that anything that is a development opportunity, that is a constructive opportunity, comes through a growth mindset, everything will fall in place. Everything will be really helpful. Feedback will be a constructive communication channel and a tool for people to grow. And this is hopefully for people in an organization, for leaders that lead people, for teams, for individuals, and then moving towards other feedbacks for consumers, for reviews of products or services. All of those things are, and surveys are feedback. I want to go back to feedback one day on the 360s, all the different tools that we use in organizations to allow someone to designate raters, people who are peers, who are supervisors, who are direct reports, who are partners, who are suppliers, all the service providers, all the different people that in fact interact with this person who does a 360 to get feedback from these people through different, questionnaires and benchmarks and different percentiles of benchmarks. This person gets a nice report at the end. And this report with different things gives someone eventually information about himself or herself that can be helpful for growth, for development opportunities. So we'll talk about that too. And we just opened up the subject today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. See you next week. Have a